like Abin Dada.
It's not in their dictionary.
Abin Waha.
Abin Waha. It's now or never. So those who can enjoy this song, they are there. But
worry,
the digital age, the computer babies.
All Amachidede is trying to tell you is that don't lose hope.
Absolutely.
Don't give up. Once God is there, just cry out to God Almighty, and of course, He'll make sure that your problems are dealt with. But what's coming up on court today, Mujiba?
Yes, yesterday on Tuesday, in fact, 2 justices nominee appeared before the appointment committee of parliament, and if approved, straight to the bench of the Ghana's apex court, the highest court of the land, Supreme Court. So currently we have 15 justices of the apex court. You have been told that 2 of them will soon retire at the age of 70. And when they retire, they will need the gap. You notice that the Chief Justice has been making the case that, look, there are a lot of cases pending at the Supreme Court, and we need at least 20 justices at the apex court. And for now, we have 15. 2 will soon bow out. And then we are the president, after the Judicial Council has approved 2 nominees, have also submitted the names to Parliament. And on Tuesday, they were vetted. They appeared before the committee, and a lot of interesting revelations, things came out. And one of the justices, I must say, Justice Benasco Essa, has been speaking about, you notice that when there are cases pending before the court, there are certain lines that are drawn. You should know what to say and what not to say. If you are not able to read the lines to understand what to say at what point in time when the case is pending and what to say when the case is over, you are in big trouble. She said, look, when the case is pending, yes, be careful with it. But when judgment is delivered, you can criticize, attack the judgment. She's not saying that you should attack the judge. Attack the judgment. Look at the reasons. Look at whatever has been said. If you disagree, you can punch holes. You can say all you want to say, but don't scandalize the court.
Do not scandalize.
Let's hear from her.
The courts.
When a case is pending, they make prejudicial statements of the matter because it impairs public confidence in the judiciary. So, yes, I think now awareness has come that when a case is live and is being pending, people must restrict the kinds of things they say. But once the judgment has been delivered, they are free and at liberty to attack the judgment. After all, they can attack it all the way to whichever level they wish and have it determined on appeal. And they can talk about it, but it should be informed discussions instead of inciting people against or listeners against the person of a judge or of the entire judicial system.
So that is Justice Benasco Essa being vetted for the highest courts of the highest position as far as the courts are concerned. So the apex court, she appeared before the appointment committee. Very soon she'll know her fate. And there's one thing that she's also been speaking about: allegiance, paying allegiance to the law. Are you going to do things that are not contrary, in fact, things that are contrary to the law, or you are going to uphold the Constitution? Say, look, we need to owe allegiance to the Constitution and the laws of Ghana. Let's hear from her.
Due allegiance to the Constitution, to the law, and the law is against discrimination, bias, or arbitrariness. And I cannot allow my personal view or inclination or perception to influence any judgment that I would render. So I stick to the law as it is, admitting all other ways of interpreting the law and as is done in adjudication.
So that is Justice Benasco Essa, the Supreme Court nominee, clearly saying that, look, the laws are clear. Whatever you are doing, it should be within the tenets and then within the parameters of the law. And so owing allegiance to the law is the only thing to do. But there's one also, the other judge, in fact, nominee, Professor Frimpong Opong, has also been speaking. And Lantan, let me ask you, how do you separate your the work you did in school and what you're doing now on the field? What is the relationship to say that what I did in school, what I wrote, the exam, the papers that I wrote, the project work that I did, they do not reflect me? How do you separate that from what you do?
From what I do.
Yes.
What I did in school has absolutely nothing with what I'm doing now.
So when you come here, sit behind the console.
What I did in school has got absolutely nothing with what I'm doing now.
So when you come here in the morning, sit behind the console and do all the fire. You fire all you want to fire. Then we meet you just after the show. Then what were you saying? So what I said is for your ears. It's different from who I am. So Justice Professor Frimpong was faced with such situations where he was confronted with a report that he did on gay, and in fact his position was more like that report seems to justify gay, and then the minority leader Dr. Kasira took force and pulled out that report. To confront him now, you seem to be championing the activities of gay. When you get a nod to go
LGBTQ plus community,
when you go to
the LGBTQ plus community doesn't consist of only gays.
A lot of
it doesn't
factors.
There are gays, there are lesbians.
Yes.
So lesbians, gays, that's the LG. Lesbians, gays, the B is bisexual, the T is transgender, the I is intersex, and the plus is all those other people. All those other people who identify as things that we cannot even describe.
Including others. Others. So he is making the point that, look, what I did was purely for academic reports. But the laws of Ghana has its own inclination, its own provisions. And when given the nod to go, all that I will do will only reflect what the laws of Ghana states.
Said as an academic, I've written about the subject from the perspective of my speciality, from the perspective of conflict of laws. On my entire CV, I think there's one paper on it. So if you pull that paper from online and you think it creates a perspective, I think that is totally wrong. As I said, I have my wives here, I have my 3 daughters here. Actually, they will be very surprised that anybody thinks that I'm going to inflict LGBTQ on the country. Please, no.
Sure. Just my concluding.
Certainly, I don't have any. I certainly share your view. They are very legitimate concerns. But if you look at the penultimate paragraph of the paper, it says, and I'm quoting here, says it would be remiss if it was not emphasized that the argument in favor of recognizing foreign same-sex marriages, even if for limited purposes, should not be read as a commitment to or even a belief in the merits of same-sex marriage per se. We make the point very clear in the paper that we are not advocating for same-sex marriages in Africa. We are saying that if a person has acquired that status abroad for a limited purpose, to say that I was married to X, that should be okay. That is the academic view that I took in the paper. And as I said, from the perspective of Ghana law, the issue is actually moot, because the Human Sexuality Bill, Section 9, makes it very clear that the Ghanaian court should not recognize a foreign certificate. So I can talk about my academic views, but my academic views is not a source of Ghanaian law. If you look at Article 11, the sources of Ghanaian law are listed there. And Opong's article is not one of them.
So this issue of LGBTQ plus is still on. It's being talked about, as Professor Frimpong Opong was confronted with. He said, look, what I did was purely an academic view, but what the laws of Ghana state also has its own positions and all that. So when giving the nod, I will only champion things that the Constitution uphold and all that. And yesterday, we're giving you some reports from the Supreme Court, particularly from the views of Justice Yoni Kolendi, Emmanuel Yoni Kolendi, a justice of the Supreme Court, in relation to a recent case that was delivered, a judgment that was delivered by the Supreme Court regarding a case that was a writ that was each filed by Dr. Obri Krang, a law lecturer at the University of Ghana, and he was asking for a firm stance or a declaration on certain provisions within the 1992 Constitution, where he talks about the fact that, the provisions in the 1992 Constitution, as it were, incriminate the issue of unnatural carnal knowledge, homosexuality, and all that. And the Supreme Court rightly affirmed that provision in the Constitution and said that it is not unconstitutional for the law or the Supreme Court to incriminate the issues of homosexuality. And that judgment was a unanimous judgment. 7-member panel delivered that judgment, and it was unanimous. The panel was chaired by Justice Paul Bafo-Boni. We have Justice Omoro Tanko Amadou. You have Justice Lovelace Johnson. You have Justice Yaudakwa Asare, Justice Ejie Frimpong. All of them on the panel, and Justice Yoni Kolendi. And in fact, he had a concurring view to that particular unanimous decision. And Lantam, he's making some interesting. The reason I'm bringing this conversation in relation to what is happening, the issue of the anti-gay bill is still the injunction is still at the Supreme Court and all that. And this is what he has to say in relation to his concurring opinion to that particular subject matter. He said, "Look, I wish to state in emphatic terms, and these are his direct words. So I'm quoting from Justice Yoni Kolendi as per the judgment that was released on the 13th of August. I wish to state in emphatic terms that our Constitution is supreme and not subservient to the constitutions and the laws of other nations and jurisdictions. Whilst the constitutions and the laws of other nations may have expressly legalized homosexuality, glorified gay marriages, and by way of affirmative actions promulgated legislation to propagate, outdoor, evangelize, preach, and sell the notions of homosexuality to every fabric of all those societies." Listen to this. Ghana as a nation, and for that matter, this court here refers to the Supreme Court, cannot, by peer pressure, be cajoled into adopting similar stance. Our Constitution is sui generis and the only one of its kind. Citizens who apply this court, and this court here means the Supreme Court, must do more than merely citing and referring to constitutions of other states, as well as their case law, into persuading us, as the judges at the Supreme Court, on what the law is or ought to be in Ghana. Our duty as judges and the oath that we swore before assuming office was not to uphold the laws of other nations or other law or case law. Our oath is to uphold the Constitution and the laws of the Republic of Ghana. We shall either engage in legislative drafting nor usurp the law-making powers of Parliament in order to substitute our wisdom for that of the lawmakers by superimposing foreign perceptions or propriety and or normalcy on our laws and establish social structures. We must therefore, as judges, avoid any extent of judicial activism that will mislead us into assuming the rule of Parliament. And these are some of the positions of the opinion of Justice Emmanuel Yoni Kolendi in relation to issues of anal sex, homosexuality, and all that. Vis-a-vis, if you are just opposing this to the case pending at the Supreme Court, then your guess is as good as mine. So that's one of the things that we want to bring to attention as far as this issue of the LGBTQ plus activities are concerned. And we reference to Professor Frimpong Opon's appearance at the vetting committee on Tuesday.
All right. So that should do it for court today. Thank you very much, Murtala Yunusa. as always, joining us in the studio. You have a birthday wish, don't you?
Yes.
Who are you wishing a happy birthday
There's a
this
birthday
morning?
wish, and this one is coming from the corridors of the eastern region.
Okay.
And precisely from our own man, our man on the ground. Kojo Ansan. Yes, Kojo Ansan is sending us this from. He said, today marks 11 years of fatherhood and motherhood to Damche Lincoln family. We wish our beautiful PACA Michelle Nanaya Mbra Damche Lincoln of Madonna School, Koforidia, happy 11th birthday from the entire family. Kuku, Efia, Grannies, Mrs. Mary Lincoln of Koforidia Regional Hospital, and Mr. Abraham Lincoln. Remember that name? Abraham Lincoln. We read so much about this name. Of ECG Koforidia, the family loves you so much. So that's the birthday for 11-year-old Damche family. So happy birthday to you, PACA Michelle Nanaya Imra Damche Lincoln. So today you are 11 years. Your parents are happy. Your family is happy that you are growing to become the person that they want you to be. So happy birthday to the young lady.
All right. Happy birthday to the young lady. That's it for court today. The time is 8:13 a.m. and we still have an upcoming conversation with the IMF. They say that Ghana's economy is not necessarily out of the woods yet. There are still problems with Ghana's economy, and they highlight a few issues. We'll be speaking to them on that. And much later on as well, we'll be talking to Professor Bafo Ajimendia. This is the Morning Star. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.